Hello everybody and welcome to our earthquake notes. SWOT! Students will be able to describe what causes earthquakes, illustrate the different stresses in rock. Alright, so we're doing a little bit of review to get us started here. So the theory of plate tectonics, this is a review, is that the Earth's outer crust is divided into plates. These plates move over the asthenosphere, the plastic-like asthenosphere, and they're pulling apart, bumping into each other, and sliding past each other. So we've got divergent, convergent, and transform boundaries. Here's another little piece of review, the Ring of Fire. We've mostly talked about the Ring of Fire for volcanoes, but it's also a really active area for earthquakes. So this is where there's a ton of plate boundaries, and we've got convergent and divergent and transform plate boundaries, and we get volcanoes and earthquakes in this area. All right, so there are different types of stress on rock. So something that would force the rock to move. So first we want to talk about what a fault is. A fault is a break or fracture between two blocks of rock, and a quick movement can result in an earthquake. So there are three main types of faults, but you can see in this line right here on this photograph, this is a fault. So a big crack, and if these two blocks of rock suddenly moved, we would have an earthquake, and there's different types of faults or cracks. The first one is called a normal fault. And this is caused by something called tension. So it's a very similar movement to like a divergent plate boundary, where the rock is being stretched this way, pulled. And in this bottom picture, you can see how when it's pulled away, this side of the rock slips downward. And you can see that in this picture. You can see where this the fault is, this normal fault is. And you can see how this side of the rock has slipped downward. And that's as a result of tension or the rock being pulled away. The second type of fault is called the reverse fault. And this is caused by compression, which is movement similar to a convergent boundary, but it's being pushed together. So in this case, we've got when it's being pushed together, basically this block of rock slides upwards as you're pressing on it. And you can see that in this picture along this fault. You can see that this part of the rock has been pushed upwards. So they're not coming apart and down, but they're being pushed together and one side goes up. The last type of fault is called the strike-slip fault. And this is like a transform boundary, which the movement is similar, where you've got rock that's sliding this way. So it's not moving up or down, but it's sliding horizontally. And this picture, like this field, shows it perfectly. Like one's not higher than the other. It's just moved in a horizontal position. So that's like a transform sort of boundary, but it's called a strike-slip fault, and it's caused by stress called shearing, where rocks are sliding past each other. Earthquakes, then, are when you've got pressure along a fault, and that fault suddenly moves, and you get this break in the rock. So you get energy that's released, and that energy is in the form of seismic waves. We've talked about seismic waves a little bit when we talked about layers of the earth, but we're going to talk about them more during earthquakes. So we've got these seismic waves traveling through the crust of the earth when the earthquake happens. All right, so here is a picture of a city in Italy that had an earthquake in 2017. And it's kind of interesting to look at this picture where you can see parts of the buildings that are still there and parts of them are not there anymore. But the energy of the seismic waves causes the shaking and destruction. So that energy in this form of seismic waves causes all that destruction. Small earthquakes happen all the time, but large earthquakes are more rare. So small earthquakes, a lot of times they happen, we don't even feel them. All right, an earthquake. So here's two vocabulary words I want you to know: focus and epicenter. The focus is where the earthquake actually starts. And because our crust is deep, the focus can be anywhere inside. It could be 4 miles underneath the ground, it could be 2 miles underneath the ground, it could be 20 miles underneath the ground. But the focus is not usually like right on the surface. It can be anywhere along the fault. And so this picture shows, like, here's like a fault underground, and we've got a focus that's somewhere under the surface of the earth. Well, the epicenter is this part that would be like on the map, or where you could stand on, or directly above the focus. So the focus is where the earthquake starts, and the epicenter is where it is on the map. All right, some discussion questions for you. How do plate boundaries impact earthquakes? So where do earthquakes normally occur? What are the 3 different kinds of stress on rock? I want you to go back and maybe look at that part of the video or look at your notes again on the stresses. And what is a focus and epicenter? So what's the difference between those 2 things? Here is our meme. Our earthquake notes are kind of long, so there's actually 2 parts, so I will continue with the second part in just a minute. But I also want to show you my t-shirt that I am wearing. This is my fault t-shirt. This is my fault I couldn't take the pressure, which is an awesome diagram of a fault. So I hope you enjoyed this part of the earthquake notes, and remember, science rocks!